Meanwhile, in Broomtown, it's getting time to root, propagate. I don't know, whatever words you want to use. I got a lot of grapevines, grape cuttings. I got some root, some figs to root, and it's time to make up soil. And a lot of people get really obsessed about soil, and I understand it's important. I know all that, but in this first step, when you're rooting stuff, what you really want is something that's maybe soft, supple, that'll hold water and not get in the way of roots developing. And not so much about nourishment and nutrition and pHs and all those other things that everybody talks incessantly about. There's time to do that. If we were going to leave stuff potted, I'd want it in the best. So that's a long introduction to say we're going to make up some soil to root in. And the base that I like to use for a couple of reasons, and partly because it stores so easy, this coco coir. I think that's a fancy name for freeze-dried coconut shells. And it's a brick. We're going to put it in a bucket and we're going to put water in it and reconstitute it. That's as good a word as any. And then scattered around, I've got a bunch of leftover seed starting mix where I've mixed up peppers and tomatoes and stuff like that. I'm going to throw all that in the bucket with the coconut. This is perlite. I found this on the Amazon for nothing. I mean, literally like $1. I guess they were tired of housing it. So I thought, this was probably in November last year. But that helps keep things from being, perlite is like vermiculite, keeps things pliable. It doesn't let it clot. It doesn't let it clump up. And like I said, what the real purpose of all this is not inhibiting root growth. Let me get some stuff together and cut this open, and then I'll be right back. Let's begin with water. And we'll just pour some water in this bucket. And you're thinking I'm putting a lot of water in there. But, and I am, but this stuff's cool. Once it starts absorbing, it's not fast. It's not like, this cool chemical experiment, but for planting, it's cool. And if we knew how, we could do one of those time lapse and then show this expand, but I don't know how to do that. So we'll do it the, goober way and let that soak, and then we'll come back in a minute and see what it looks like. See, that really wasn't long, and you can see already how much these things how much water they've taken up, and they're just getting started. This will be a lot of material before it's over. It's just kind of slow. All right, come back in a minute. I don't really want this to be boring ad nauseum, but I do want to show you how it does. Maybe we'll strike, a happy medium. But I just kind of chip on it because I'm really impatient, and you see how it just starts kind of raking. I probably am not hurrying it in the least. It'd probably do this all by itself, but I don't ever have the patience to just ignore it and go do something else for 30 minutes. This is what we get. Let's put a little more water on that. You thought I had filled it too much, and it soaks it up. First time I tried this, it was it's kind of neat. I thought to myself, well, you've been had, but this makes a large volume. It's clean. I guess it's probably sterilish. At least it's not supposed to have any, junk in it, parasites. You can see it is sucking up water like crazy. And it should, when we're done, it should pretty much fill this little bucket. And I don't really know how much I'm going to do, much to the concern of the farm manager. I've probably got about, I don't know, maybe 200 things to root. And, you always get the same questions. What are you going to do with it? And just different way people think. I'll deal with that when the time comes. Right now, it's, I don't know how successful I'm going to be on getting things to propagate, to root. So when you think about these things in the time frame of like a year, it's easy to get excited and make too much, propagate too much plants, because if it's going to be a whole nother year before you get to do it again. So like we've talked about before, propagating your own plants is one of the cheapest ways to do that, to have more plants instead of going out and buying it. And heaven forbid if you do have some left over that you can't give away. I have thrown it away before, but that's pretty rare. I usually try to find a place to put it. But all right, everybody can kind of see what this is and what it's about. So let's not tape the rest, and then I'll come back when I get maybe a little more finished. I'm close to some point. There's still some little bitty pieces of dry, but we'll let that catch up. I'm gonna put these in the big tub that I got over here. This was just a mixing bowl. This is that's my black tub that I use for seed starting soil, rooting soil. And I'm gonna mix, like I said, that's just leftover store-bought. And I got another one of these that I'll stir in as we get to it. I'm probably gonna do 2 more of those bricks, and then we'll make a final solution. I didn't show you the box before, but this is how this stuff is shipped. And it really does come in these are individually wrapped. I think the other ones were not. They were just packed in there. But obviously, I guess the thing you're trying to avoid the most is moisture. Can you imagine what that package would look like if it got wet inside and all those things exploded? You'd have a coconut mess. In the nature of time, I've decided to cheat and get a paint stirrer to mix these in. See how you thought that was all wet? And it's not. Once you get all this stuff incorporated in here, it mixes good. And this little thing, I know that's a paint stirrer, but that might be a case of use what you got, because it does. Perlite. I showed you the perlite before. My videos are not supposed to be safety videos, but I don't like to breathe this stuff. I'm not particularly sure that it is. It's probably better than the vermiculite, because the vermiculite's got a little bit of different consistency. This is a mineral, I believe, and the issue is when it's dry, it has that dust, and I don't like to breathe. So I usually put it in, and then I'll give it a little drink, I guess you could say, to settle the dust. But let's incorporate some of that into our mix. And I'm just kind of trying to get ahead of it. I'm going to mix it all together in the end. But I mainly did that on purpose so I wouldn't have to worry about whether I was breathing vermiculite or not. So use vermiculite at your own discretion. If you don't like it, then don't use it. I like it. It keeps things I started to say it keeps things moving, but I don't want you to think it's the laxative of dirt additives, but it kind of is. It keeps everything loose. So let me finish getting all this broke up, and I'll touch base with you in a minute. The farm manager wasn't satisfied with the progress I was making with the drill, so she's taken over now. And I have to admit, she's doing a lot better job than I was. So I'm going to remember this for future applications. And, all of you that say, you're busted, those are white flakes. That's vermiculite. I mean, that's perlite, not vermiculite. You're right. It is one of those pieces of a container that I had left over from years past, had some perlite in it. So there is perlite. I use the same kind of safety precautions with that as I do with the vermiculite. I don't like to breathe the dust, so I washed it really, really well and kind of, hosed it down before I stuck my head in there to start stirring. Let's stir some more, and then maybe we can wrap this up. I dumped the last bit of the coconut coir. I have a really hard time pronouncing that. I don't know why it just doesn't flow off the tongue as you would imagine. But this is pretty well incorporated. We'll be ready. I'm probably not gonna. I wanted to do this in maybe segments so that we did it. I'd had some feedback on the channel that sometimes the tapes were. That tells you how old I am. The videos were too long, and frankly, probably boring. So we really tried to kind of do this in smaller segments. So I'm going to show you my dirt that I root and propagate in just on one, and then we'll actually show the propagation. So enjoy this. This is pretty much the end of the road for this one. This is our stress-free root growing soil. Check back in. Maybe we'll get one soon. It's the time of the year to start, especially grape. Start getting some grape cuttings rooting. So anyway, thanks for watching. It's Meanwhile in Broomtown, and we'll catch up with you later. See you. All right, I'm cleaned up and I'm ready to go in. Before I finish this, I just want the purpose of today's dirt video is don't obsess over this stuff. I watch some of these videos and I think, God, I'll never be adequate enough to do that. So I don't obsess. And you shouldn't either. I had some leftover stuff. I had some stuff I bought months ago. I had some of that cocoa stuff, and just make a concoction. If these plants were going to live in it for the rest of their lives, you might spend a little more time on it. But this is a short-term medium just to give them something to start. Once they get a root system, once they get, I'll replant them, repot them, or I'll put them out in the garden or wherever. So I don't know why that hit me so, but you just don't panic over, am I doing all this little stuff right? Because frankly, the people that are telling you don't know either. So just have fun with it. See you later. Hey, thanks for watching, and if you would, take a second to hit the subscribe button for us. It helps us a lot. I appreciate it.